Hey everyone, I'm here today with Charles Taylor from SEO Fight Club, one of my absolute favorite SEOs, an absolute mastermind at technical and problem solving stuff. And we're just going to jump right in. So, what are some of the things that you do to help business owners?
Sure. One of my claims to fame is migrations, helping f folks get through migrations. That's often a big problem a lot of people have. They will go from one domain to the other or one CMS to the other CMS, and they'll typically crush their organic traffic. So I have a lot of folks engage me right before they do it. Most of them engage me right after they do it and have a problem. I have had a lot of agencies come to me and say, "Hey, I know this is a concern. I know this is a problem. We're going to move this client onto a new CMS, from an old CMS to a new CMS. We don't want to crush their SEO. How do we get through that?" And that's where I can step in and help people out.
So, especially then, any business that is combining with another business, expanding with another business, or combining two websites in any way.
Right. And a lot of agencies, when they take over clients, the client may have built that site 5, 6, 10 years ago. They're on old technology. They need to move off of whatever they're on. So the agency wants to do that, but they also don't want to lose some of the goodness. There is some goodness there that they want to preserve, and they don't want to lose that. And that's something I can help people out with.
So let's say you are a plumbing chain or you're a dentist or whatever, and you've hit the wall at seventh place, let's say.
Correct. That's exactly right. How do I go further? Like, I've got all the basics. I understand what a title tag is. I have H1s, but why am I only on, bottom of page one, or maybe not even there? Why am I only at the top of page two? What do I have to do to get to the second next level? I also have had a lot of folks reach out to me where I've built myself up to the top three positions and
Mhm.
I've been drifting down, and I've been drifting down consistently for the last 6 to 8 months. What do we have to do to stem this tide and turn it the other direction?
Exactly. Okay, so these are going to be common scenarios. So how do you help these people?
A lot of times what I'll do is we look at, so the first thing I have to ask is, what have you really been doing for the past year?
Hmm.
I don't care how black hat it was. I don't care how edge case scenario you think it was. I need to know, because sometimes we need to clean these things up. Sometimes that's not the problem. Sometimes it's something else. I've had a lot of people come to me and say, my competitors are hacking my site, or my competitors are doing something negative to me. And I look into it, and often, no, it's not the
Yes.
competitors. You've done something negative to yourself. And here's how we've confused the search engine. Here's how we confuse Google. And we can usually get it cleaned up relatively easy. And it takes a couple months for Google to start seeing the changes and start recovering from it, but it will happen.
So one little moment there is that keep track of what you're doing. If you're moving
Yeah.
between multiple web designers and stuff, you're going to need that data to understand what's been going on. So after they've brought you into what they've been doing, what's your next step?
I love looking at Search Console, and I dig right into the settings section. That's often a part that most people aren't aware of. Yes, there's the pages, there's the errors, but you go right into the settings, you can actually see a lot of the crawl data. And that's what I'm looking at. I'm trying to figure out, what is Google looking at? What is Google not looking at on the site? I also like to get my hands on log files. Most folks don't have log files. They don't have any idea how to get their log files. Depending on the CMS, depending on the web hosting service, sometimes they're difficult to get. Usually they're pretty easy to get. And I like to take a look and see what is exactly going on. How often are the search engines hitting the site? And if they are hitting your site, what pages are they hitting and how often? And that gives us a lot of insight as to where your problems might be.
Right. And okay, so a lot of these nichepreneurs are not going to have that stuff. In my experience, right? For one reason or another, they don't have it. So what do we do
It's
then?
usually just a FileZilla request away. It's usually just
Oh
we
yeah,
we
right.
we
But I
jump
mean, a
into
lot of these people
FTP.
have host hopped.
Yeah, yeah, and if they have, as long as they have data from the last, let's just say 30 days, we're
All right,
fine. We'll
got it.
we'll
Okay.
get most of the data we need. Plus, we can cobble stuff together, and you really have to be a bit of a detective. You got to go into Search Console. You have to look in log files, which often they don't have. You have to look at analytics. We have to look at, SEMrush, Ahrefs, whatever tool
Hmm.
you have,
Hmm.
and start trying to figure out what's going on, what really is going on, because. Um, Most of the time, the problem that folks think they have isn't the problem. Worst case scenario, it's the symptom and not the problem.
There's a mic drop moment for you there. Whatever it is that you feel emotionally is probably going on with your website is probably not the thing that's going on with your website. So it can be super beneficial to have somebody, put a pair of eyes on it. Now, actually, while we're on that, because of the way that you're shaping your services moving forward, people are able to engage you for a couple hours or
Yep.
whatever. And so it's going to be within everybody's budget, not maybe within the Shopify one or two product, but for every yard services company and every locksmith, this is going to be a budget friendly thing to at least get that initial snapshot. And then do you give them an action list at that point or?
Definitely. As a matter of fact, I just spoke with somebody yesterday, and I was speaking with her, and we had. So I always give everybody a free 30 minutes. You
Mm,
call me up, you can get 30 minutes out of me for free, and I'm happy to chat with you. And I gave her some homework. I said, let's talk again. Let's actually start scheduling some 1 hours here, 1 hour there,
mhm,
whatever her budget would
mhm,
work with. But I don't want to talk to you until you've done your homework. Get this
mhm.
stuff done first. That way, I know that we're going to utilize the time effectively. I don't want anyone wasting their money.
Yeah. So this entire podcast, Nichepreneur, is dedicated to the exact thing you just said, which is taking action. Whether it costs you whatever, $500 for a couple hours or something to engage an expert, don't look at that as lost money because if that person is that experienced and they're giving you an action list, I mean, that's invaluable, right?
Exactly. And I
So,
wouldn't spend time with people if I didn't think I could help them. So
yeah, you're
if
very
the
ethical SEO for sure.
yeah, if the problem is, I've spoke with people. I had one woman come to me a couple months ago and said, I don't know what's going on. I'm not getting any rankings with Google. And this was actually all via email. We never even got to the 30 minutes.
Mm.
And I looked at her site and said, it's all client side, JavaScript based. Google can't see the content. That's the problem. When we got on the call a week later, she just thanked me for my help, and I'm like, "Hey, this is the changes that need to be made. As soon as you're ready to talk more, let me know. I'm happy to help you out." But we that's the problem that needs to be fixed. Because if I can fix someone's life in 15 minutes, I'm happy to do it.
Man, that's
Um,
good karma. So people can reach out to you by email
mhm.
via your website, and then there'll be some kind of engagement there.
Yeah, when you go to my website, charlestaylorseo.com, there's a link to book some time with me and book the 30 minutes, the initial call, and just say, hey, here's the problem I'm having. I also even engage initially via emails, like, tell me about the problem you're having.
Hmm, hmm.
And so when we do that first 30 minutes, I can immediately start hearing, okay, here's the website you were having problems with, here's the questions. We can start looking into it. Sometimes people come to me with issues, say, hey, look, this is an issue. I'm not the best person for you, but let me find someone that can help you out. Here's
Yeah,
someone who
right, right,
knows that very, very well.
right, right.
Um, and then there's other times like, oh yeah, we can fix this in an hour or maybe 2 hours. Or I have one client where once a month we meet for about an hour. We talk through the problems. He shows me issues. I kind of give him an action plan, and then we'll meet back a month later. And it's like, hey, here's what I did. Here's what I didn't get to. And it's really I try to be as a la carte as possible. I do have clients where they pay me good money. I'm always kind of on call. I'm always
Right,
working
right.
with them. I'm meeting over them.
Scale. Yeah.
But yeah, it really depends on what your scale. I don't ever want budget to be a reason why someone can't have good SEO.
Yeah. So I love this. So specifically what you just said, that's very actionable. So if you can engage somebody at this level, 1 hour a month, it's going to be a life changer for you over the course of a year. So what are some of the things that you do to help people deconfuse Google? And maybe is there one DIY actionable that we can give people right now to go do to their own website that's going to improve it in some way?
Certainly. So you said the magic word relevance. Google's trying to figure out what is the relevance of one page versus the other. And they talk about it on Fight Club all the time. There's lots of ways to position number one. There's many different routes. And the reason why there are so many routes is Google has to have all of these different factors for ranking a page because no page does everything and no page does everything properly. As far as like what are some of the biggest things I've seen, they're actually real simple. And that's not keeping your URL canonicals correct. And when I say canonicals, I'm not just talking about the canonical tag. Yes, that's important, but often your links aren't correct. I'll see people sometimes use www, sometimes not use www, sometimes have HTTPS, sometimes not have HTTPS. They have trailing slash versus no trailing slash. All of those things matter. Now,
Mm,
often a dev will say, it's okay because it 301 redirects over. It's all right.
mm.
And I have to explain, no, it's not okay because you're forcing the search engine to go through these hops, which further confuses Google. And that is one, Google just recently came out with a statement about how they figure out the canonical version of a URL. There's more than one way. There's about a dozen different factors they look at. So
Oh,
as
wow.
many of those factors as you can get pointed in the same way as possible, the greater the chances are you're not going to confuse the search engine.
Right. And
You could have a mirror version of your site sitting out there and you're not even aware of it.
right, right. So there's things there I hadn't thought of. So relevance. So we're going to go to our page right now. I'm a locksmith. I'm DIY. I don't have a budget to engage in SEO. What can I do right now in the next 5 minutes to, in some way, improve my website?
Well, the first thing I would do is if I was a local business, I'd claim my GBP. Assuming we already have the GBP claimed, I would make sure that make sure there's a very easy way for people to find you and contact you on your website. Is your phone number there front and center?
Okay.
Is there an email form? How hard is it? Make it, and that's not even an SEO thing. It's just make sure that people can contact you
User
and do
experience.
business with you.
Do you like
Exactly.
phone numbers and headers?
I'll put the phone number in a title tag if it's a local business, and if it's something like and if it's something like a locksmith, because if
Oh,
someone
that's
needs a
gangsta.
locksmith, they need a locksmith now. They don't need a locksmith in an hour. They have a problem that they need fixed.
That's true. By the way, just on that note, do you think it's smart to target emergency locksmith, or would you just have locksmith and then an emergency page on there?
I don't know if I would do so. I'll have to be honest. I'm not an expert on the locksmith niche. My
Right.
quick guess is most people are just searching locksmith and they're not saying
Yeah.
emergency
So don't
locksmith.
get too hyper local.
Yeah, I would, I would market myself if I were the locksmith. I'd market like, I'm a locksmith on something like on call or can
Yeah.
come help you, because that's what really people need. They say I need a locksmith, and they didn't know that person can come and help them right this second because it's 30 degrees out and I just locked myself out of my house
Mm-hmm,
and I
mm-hmm.
don't want to bust a window.
Okay. So a lot of historically, the issue with Google is that it had trouble extracting relevance in different ways. It's hard to take unstructured data and turn it into extreme relevance. Is that tech getting better to the point that these things are less important, or do they become more important?
I'd say they're becoming more important. One of the things, and I think I suspect you're probably benefiting from, is Google is now. So there was a time we go back, 10 plus years, everything was about having niche sites. Every site was just about this. And then before you know, people started creating this skyscraper content and all this extra content on the site. And I think Google realized that that was a potential problem, and they've kind of reversed course. The helpful content update is looking for sites that are very specific. They're about a specific subject. They're not about everything under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that goes back to, again, understanding that is a, while it's a content issue, it's also understanding all the different optimization zones and how Google reads your page, because you need to make sure Google understands, yes, this entire site is about being a locksmith.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very easy where folks will do a locksmith page, for example, and then they'll do a page for each of the different local towns because they're trying to make themselves locally relevant. Not a horrible idea. There's, definitely would do that in some ways, but you got to be careful that your site doesn't suddenly become a site about your county or your geographic area and not about a locksmith. And that's where you have to the content. Technically, the search engine starts having trouble because their content's giving it a different story. It's giving a different message.
So this is one of my SEO pet peeves is this concept that topical authority means every variation on a topic
Yeah.
versus the variations that matter to what you're doing and to what your users are looking for, right?
So Google made a change to their policies probably like a couple years ago now. They used to say, content for people, by people for people, and they dropped the by people and just had for people. I think one of the things they're kind of signaling is, look, we're not going to try to figure out whether it's AI or not, but as users, we can all see AI junk. Like it's the web is a wash of AI junk. How is Google trying to figure that out? Google, I think, has decided to punt and say, I don't need to figure it out. I just have to watch the traffic. If everybody goes to this page and bounces immediately, that page is no good, whether it was written by a person or a bot. If this video gets full views, then people must like it. It doesn't matter whether it's a bot. I've watched things I know were done by a bot, but they were funny or they were interesting. And I think Google's watching a lot of this traffic data, and I think that's becoming a more important signal than a lot of folks realize. So it kind of goes back to the question, what would you tell a locksmith? I would say, hey, are all your pages getting traffic? It's not that the pages that are off topic shouldn't exist. It's the pages that nobody cares about probably shouldn't exist.
So the main reason I want you to engage Charles is because he knows all this stuff and he's current. It would take you 20 years to
Mhm.
learn the things that he knows, believe me, the value is going to be 100-fold over time. So let's wrap up with you talking about what you offer and how they can engage you. And then in the future, if you have anything specific you want drilled down, come back anytime for another 20 minutes, right?
Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess what I would just offer to everybody is, yeah, I can do ongoing SEO for folks. There are several companies I do that with, but I always like to start out just initially, just an initial hour. What is the problem? Is this something I can help you with? You can go to my website, charlestaylorseo.com. There's a little sign up for initial 30.
Thanks.
Yeah, links below. It'll be an initial, there's a free initial 30 minutes. I tell everybody I will leave you better than how I found you. Even if we decide, no, we don't work together great for whatever reason, technical reasons, personal reasons, it doesn't matter. It's what works for you. And if that works, then we set up some time. I've had plenty of folks say, "Oh, no, 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 I know I want to work with you," and we sign them on, and I do like a monthly thing where they pay me a set amount, and I just work with them and help them through whatever the
Hmm.
issue is of the month.
Hmm.
And hey, how do we figure out this, or how do we figure out? I've got one client. I just watch their logs and their search console every month, and I let them know what's going on. Hey,
Hmm.
this needs to be fixed. And really, what happens is I say, here's exactly what needs to be fixed, and here's how they can fix it. And I
Hmm.
end up directly communicating to their technical teams.
So you keep
Um,
them 2 steps ahead at all times, kind of thing.
exactly. I'm always keeping an eye on that technical stuff, and I'm basically their technical SEO manager,
Mm.
but just I'm a freelance, and we can do that at a larger level or a smaller level. It doesn't really matter to me. It's whatever works for folks' budgets.
It's been an honor having you. Like I can't even explain to you, uh, you know, it's like I almost have hero syndrome having you on the podcast. Really,
No, no, not
you're
at
one of
all.
my, I know how humble you are, but really, man, it just thank you for being so generous with your time. I'm really grateful, and hopefully everybody that's been watching this podcast has been picking up what Charles has been laying down. Now, some of this stuff might be too technical for you. That's okay. It's once again, you can go to SEO Fight Club, watch a few episodes, you can join their group. There's places to ask questions, right? And you can get clarity on all that stuff. But what I will say is that if you are trying to run the best lawn care business in Austin, Texas, you should not be spending your time trying to learn all the things that Charles knows. One of the big mistakes that I see people running into is they want to try and understand everything you're doing. And it's just impossible, right? You cannot do good technical SEO and also teach a realtor to understand good technical SEO in a month. It just is not going to happen. So don't even try that. You have to learn to trust the experts and grow your business. Put your time into creating great client relationships. Your growth is going to be enough to be able to easily finance all these other things you need to do. Awesome, Charles. It's
Exactly.
been it's been an honor, man. We will have you on hopefully in another 8 weeks to discuss a new topic.
Thank you very
And
much for having me. I really
really
appreciate
appreciate
it.
you, man. Yep. See you soon.
Appreciate you. Take
Bye.
care.